everyone, I hope you're well. Welcome to Night Class Brand Week. I hope that last week's content has been good to you and that you've learned some stuff and it's helped you propel your brand idea forward. We didn't set homework of like asking you what your brand was or anything, because obviously that's not something that everyone might have ready yet. For those of you that do, I hope that it was useful. For those of you that haven't yet, I hope that it was useful. We have got a great guest with us this evening, who is Liz Nguyen from Eat Chay. Liz and her husband Joe started Eat Chay in 2017. They're actually coming up for their 4th year anniversary, which is quite a wild ride for them, considering probably a quarter of it has been in the age of COVID. But they're still standing, and they appear to be stronger than ever. Their brand appears to be more buoyant than ever. They began, as Liz is going to tell you, on Brick Lane at the Sunday Upmarket. Actually, maybe it was the Boiler House. Sorry, I might have got that wrong. But on Brick Lane, just with a grill and a bit of seitan. And they've really grown their team to something really wonderful to look at from the outside. I remember when they first came along and cooked for us at Curb, they were just, full of energy, full of passion, and just wanted to cook this great food. And it's been really amazing seeing their development from just 2 people who didn't really know what they were doing to emerging to appear to be a sort of super brand in the street food world with a really big following. So I'm going to be talking to Liz all about that in just a moment. And we're going to go over some of the homework, just some of the things that you've said about the brands that you love. I think it's just a useful exercise in getting us to think about what the power of brand can be. And then Liz is going to talk us through her brand journey. And then we'll have questions at the end. So do prepare any questions, chuck them in the comments on YouTube like always, and we'll answer them at the end. So can I see Liz, please?
Hi.
Hi, Liz. Welcome. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you? Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. I thought you'd be an excellent person to invite on to Night Class, partly because of, you've created such a brilliant brand yourself, partly because you haven't been doing it for a huge amount of time and your trajectory has been really good. And partly because, it's been really remarkable to watch you in the age of the last year, where it's been like crisis for a lot of people, just defiantly push on and continue to transmit a really strong brand and find new ways of doing what you do, even though you haven't been able to do exactly how you used to do it. And it's been really impressive to see.
Oh, thanks. It might look like, the swan who looks elegant, like above the water, but like paddling under the water. But yeah, we're trying our best.
I know, and I think that's the art, isn't it? Like everyone's just paddling desperately under the water. It's just like the ones that seem like they're gliding. And I know it's not about perfection either, but it's just really, it's just, how you present, how you appear, the robustness of how you seem, which is very reassuring for people, especially now. So what I wanted to know was, why did you start Eat Chay?
So the press-approved answer to that would be that we weren't vegan at the time, and we were really interested in plant-based food. And we saw a gap in the market. We didn't see a lot of Asian-inspired, Asian flavors, plant-based food. There was a lot of vegan burgers out there, but not so much, Asian food, basically. Or if there was, it'd be like, tofu or mushroom on something. And so we really wanted to do that. The long answer would be we needed to stay. We just graduated. We needed a visa to stay. And we kind of merged the two together. I think if it was up to us, we'd give it another few years and get some more experience. But we had to, because of our visa situation. We plunged in, and I think actually, that has been really good for our business because we were able to just dive straight in, get going right away. We didn't have any fear. We didn't have anything to lose. We didn't put a lot of money in at all. And we basically grew from nothing. So I guess like that would be very similar to the situation of a lot of people here.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what you're talking about is really, really important. It's that hunger. And,
Yeah.
we've seen it so much in the last year from people who've innovated. And most people will tell you, like you see all these restaurants or whatever doing all this amazing stuff. And most of them will tell you they didn't have a choice. They had to do it. And there's something really beautiful about, like, even though it's hard, just like the hunger and there's no alternativeness of it. And whether that's you just have to do this idea because you're so kind of like passionate about it, or whether you just like don't have anything else to do. And
Yeah.
I think that's it's a remarkable thing to see. We've been talking about vision on this course, your electric charge, your why. What was your vision when you began, and has it endured to this day?
So like I said, we really wanted to make plant-based Asian food. That was it on our mind. That is our core value. And at the beginning, we wanted to create a vegan pret. We wanted to be a fast, casual, healthy place. We soon realized that it's for you to become a pret or a Leon. You have to cater to the masses. You have to cater to everybody. You have to cater to vegans, vegetarians, meat eaters, keep people on keto diets in order to be able to sell your product quite cheaply. And you'll have to be able to build your products in 5 steps or something. So you can't really have an elaborate kind of recipe to be able to create like fast casual food. And we realized that because the vegan market was such a niche market, that what we really needed to do was to create something really special and different and put a lot of time and effort into it and get the same customers to come back and build loyal customer base, rather than just getting people through the doors because the food is cheap and the quality is okay. So we have definitely shifted, and that is one thing I've learned, is you can change your strategy, but as long as your core vision stays, then that's the most important thing. And we have changed our vision so much, and I think we will still change, especially because of the pandemic. But we have always done, from the start, we have always done what we set out to do, which was to create plant-based food that is inspired by the flavors that we grew up with. So yeah.
Exactly. And how you get there, as everyone who starts a business learns, is not necessarily the way you think you're going to get there, but it's okay, like you said, as long as you've got that North Star that you've got your eye on. And it's not even about a destination, it's just like your why, just keeping you connected to the future, and being open-minded to how you get there is the name of the game ultimately. So what is the meaning and importance of brand to you?
The meaning and the importance of brand to us is definitely, it's all about communication, the relationship between the brand, the company, and all of our stakeholders. So that's just a fancy word for everyone who's got, who's involved in your business in some way or another: your suppliers, your staff, your landlords, your event organizers, and especially your customers, obviously. Branding. A lot of times people think of branding as, the color of your brand and the logo and the way you shoot your photos, but it's not so much that. It's how you build and maintain that connection.
Yeah, absolutely. It's something that kind of lives within people and how they respond to you. And it's going to be, I mean, that was it was very interesting reading everybody's homework. We'll come to it soon, but just like how it gives you that feeling, how
it resonates with you.
Absolutely, absolutely. So what I want to know is, how much did you think about brand before you began Eat Chay? How much of a subject in your head was it?
It was, I guess it was everything and not everything, as in like, I feel like branding is the first thing people are excited to do, right? Isn't it's the first thing that people think about, like what kind of logo I'm going to have, and they're eager to, pay someone to design a logo for them, um, and and even what food you're going to do. That is basically branding. How are you going to brand yourself? Are you going to be, for us, for instance, when we first started, our menu was completely Vietnamese. I am from Vietnam, and Joe, my partner, is from Hong Kong, and because I do all the food, basically, I do all the creatives behind the food. Initially, it was all Vietnamese food. And we did bún cha, and we did banh mi, and we made it on mushroom pate and things like that. Then we quickly adapted. We introduced stuff that we wanted to have, and we were having at home. We introduced Korean sam. We made our own kimchi and stuff like that. And I think that has evolved as well. So yeah, it was always in the back of our mind, but we never thought that we have to have our branding sorted out before we start. We kind of change it and adapt along as we go.
Yeah. So like on that, how did you set about doing that in nuts and bolts? Who did you call? Who helped you? How did you come up with the logo? Obviously we're talking about how brand is more than the logo, but just like the actual identity. How did you set about doing that?
So the first branding, which you'll see the pictures of, it was horrific. We got one of my friends to help us design a very basic logo. Basically, it's just Eat Chai typed out, basically. And we did everything, and we didn't even know how to use Photoshop. So we put everything together, and everything was just bleak and very black and white, but we thought it was very minimalistic and very trendy. Clearly, we were wrong. When we actually joined Curb, and Ollie from Curb actually sat us down, was like, guys, food is great, but let's work on this like gothic look that you're giving off. And so and we literally told Ollie, we don't have the money to rebrand right now. And I think it's okay as well if you don't have the money to start off and have an amazing brand right away. And especially what you have in your head, on Pinterest, you'll like pin like this minimalistic cafe, but then it doesn't really translate to your store, and you have to really be at the market. So you have to have opened your restaurant to really know what works with the space that you have. And then after a while, we sat down and we had the time to think about branding. And Joe was literally like, well, we need to choose the color. We need to have a pop color, and we need to just choose a color. And we chose yellow because at the time, Club Mix Gunner, the pioneer of the vegan food scene, they were hot pink, and they're still hot pink. And I remember Spice Box was like blackish with like yellow geometric like kind of design, and then Biff was purple, so we were like, we'll be yellow, and we just chose that, and we went from there.
Yeah, it's funny how things can just come about as a matter of circumstance as well.
Yeah,
isn't it?
but we still, like, all of our design and branding is still done in-house, as in either Joe and I do it, and we just figured out Photoshop. It's really not that difficult.
So a friend of yours designed the logo.
The first logo, yes. The second logo, we actually got an actual graphic designer to design it, but we outsourced someone from Vietnam. So it was really, really cheap. We got our logo done for like 80 pounds. And she also did like the whole alphabet in each letter in the logo format, if that makes sense. So if we wanted to do a slogan, we could do it ourselves instead of like going to her, because we've got like the whole alphabet already. Yeah. So yeah, that's everything that we outsource, really.
That's so good. And then you know, like so many small food businesses, then you learn a new skill in order to be able to just take it and run with it without having to spend loads of money every time and call in the expert, become the expert yourself. And you still do it all yourselves.
Yeah, we still do it all ourselves. And, you know, we did all of you'll see our setup for like our market stores and for our festival setup. We did all of that ourselves, you know. We just kind of looked looked at other businesses. We asked Ollie Jerkin where they got the lettering done, and you just kind of, and we really enjoyed it. We painted like wooden fonts ourselves and stuff like that, and those things break down so often that you really don't want to spend all that much money on it. But I know some people have paid and get their frontage done really nicely. And if we had the budget to, we would have. But it depends on where you want to allocate your budget, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're also talking about something that's really important to remember in all of this is like you're not going to have everything perfectly sorted from the get-go, but you didn't let that stop you. Like some people, I mean, I've come across people who've spent years saying, yeah, I've just been working on my business. I've been working on my business. And I'm like, well, when are you going to start it? And they're like, no, I've just got to do this and I've just got to do that. And you think that you can create a business in your head and in your like house. And it's not until you go outside and have a chemical reaction with the outside world and go, actually, that branding doesn't work there. Or actually, no one wants to eat this kind of food. Or I had a really useful conversation with someone I was trading next to, and they introduced me to such and such. Like, it's such an important thing to remember for all of you guys planning your business. It's like so much of it will come out when you're actually doing it. And the point is just to start with whatever you have, the best of your ability. As long as you have your vision, you can figure it out from there. And obviously you need your equipment. We're going to come to that next week in operations week. So Liz, how have you built your audience?
Mostly through Instagram. We don't actually, I mean, you'll find us on Twitter and Facebook, but we probably haven't posted in about a year. We focus on Instagram, and that's about it. We have a YouTube channel just to like pop in videos and stuff. We also use our website. I think it's very important for a business to have a website. It makes you just so much more professional, and you can get a domain for 20 quid and set up a free website really easily, or we use Squarespace. It's quite easy to integrate on Squarespace if you wanted to open an online shop or if you wanted to have a blog column and stuff like that. So yeah, mostly through Instagram. That's where we communicate with our customers. A lot of customers send through their feedback or any issues that they have through there, and we're just 24/7 on there. And yeah, we also have like a blog on our website where we have like recipes on there. So we did a lot of that during the first lockdown. While we didn't operate the business at all. Everything was completely closed. Then that really kept people engaged. So yeah, Instagram is the way to go.
And when you say you were on it 24/7, how many hours a day do you think you spend on it, engaging with your audience?
I mean, I can tell you, I don't want to look. I don't want to look at how much time I spend on Instagram. I think I check what my thing is. I don't have notification on my Instagram because it kind of drives me crazy seeing a notification. I'll have to reply to it. But so then when I'm working, when I'm in the kitchen where I'm doing like work on my laptop, I wouldn't even look at my phone. But I check back every now and then to see if there are messages or questions and stuff like that. And I try to comb through them and answer them. We try our best to engage. We're not the best at this, but you should engage to like all the comments. If people have any questions on your posts and comments on your post, even if they just given you a heart, you should just kiss them back or something, like give them a heart back. It's really important to stay connected and stay personal with your audience. But I'll get to that later because there is pros and cons to being overly personal on Instagram and through your branding.
Yeah, that's a cliffhanger. Looking forward to hearing more about that.
Yeah.
How do you maintain engagement, both pre-pandemic, but particularly now? I mean, you've touched on it, but can you give us some examples?
So we see, I think you have to also get quite technical with social media. You need to understand what's driving engagement. So for instance, what's driving engagement right now is not the number of likes, it's numbers of saves and shares, which for now Instagram is not telling you how many people have shared your post. So that's a bit annoying. But to be able to do that, then I do see that whenever we launch something new, or whenever we have when we're using a new photo of something the same, but a new photo that they've never seen before, that the audience has never seen before, engagement really shoots up. So it's really about churning out fresh content, which could be very difficult, but it is important to sort of churn out fresh content to get the engagement up, for people to want to share it, want to tag friends into it. And another thing is, again, being quite personal, talking about your personal journey, talking about your personal connection to a particular dish, for instance, could get the conversation moving too, instead of just be like, here are some baos, go buy some baos from us at this place at this time, which we do anyways, because at the end of the day, social media is a platform where it's a PR platform where you release your information, right? So you do need people to know where you are at, but at the same time, creating content that allows conversation, even just by propping a question at the end of the caption, that helps too.
Yeah. Do you feel like there's a difference in the way people are? Do you feel like people are more like on Instagram more? Do you feel like their needs are different
from
before?
I definitely think so. We actually have seen a drop in engagement with like the normal posts. When we post something new, engagement is really good, but I think people are being a bit more selective. Like they're getting bombarded with advertising so much that I think people are just not engaging. It's so much easier for them to scroll through. And again, people are engaging with stories more than posts, for instance. So yeah, definitely. And people have more time on social media now, which could mean that you'll get a lot more positive engagement. But it could also mean that you might get like some negative engagement, and you just have to sort of navigate through that, I guess.
Yeah, and remember that everyone, like you said, has got a lot more time on their hands to do things like to make maybe negative comments. Yeah, I think everyone's just got a lot more time in good and probably not so good ways. And finally, what do you see as the future for Eat Chai coming out of the COVID era?
We're not sure, and I think it's okay to say you're not sure, especially because of COVID. I think we very much have the mentality of just taking things one day at a time. It has worked out for us. I think what we have realized, I think at the end of the day, we're still a very small business, and I think what we realize, what brings us joy, is to serve people food, and to have like the connection and the exchange and the relationship, rather than if you don't know, we're at Box Park, so it's very much of a fast casual food place, and a lot of times, because it's essentially is a bar, a lot of times you can't really build relationships with your customers. You're literally selling them a baguette or a bowl of rice, and that's it, off they go. Or you can't really, you're quite restricted, because Box Park, we're basically in a shipping container. We're quite restricted to what kind of dish we can do, and what kind of dish the customers there would appreciate, just because it's quite a fast casual place. People want something quick and fast and easy to eat, just like at a market. So having 10-course dinner, or something really messy might not really work. And we really want to move away from that, and want to move towards having a more neighborhood, local kind of place. And we've already wanted to have an actual sit-in restaurant before the pandemic. I think it just kind of it just kind of confirms in our mind that we no longer want to be fast casual kind of space anymore.
Yeah, and I know you used to do a lot of festivals.
Yeah.
How do you, I know none of us know what's going on with festivals. We're all desperate to go to a festival. They will come back, but probably not this summer. But do you miss them? Do you want to get back to them, or are you thinking that maybe you don't want to do that anymore?
I really, really do miss festivals. I don't know we'll have the strength to do that, or if we can build like a team to do that anymore. Because with festivals, you do need a very reliable team that would be able to, punch out the hard work, because it is a lot of hard work. Having said that, I don't want to be in the fast casual space anymore. We would definitely want to go back to festivals. We love festivals. Maybe not all the festivals. We used to, travel outside of London for festivals, but I think we now have trialed quite a few that we know which ones work for us and which ones don't. And yeah, that's the one element that I miss about the most. It's so fun. Festival is just, I think most people are in this industry because they love the rush of service, right? And it just, you see queues of people. What you hate the most is standing in a store and just waiting for a customer to come to you. But a festival, you most often won't have that problem, and it's just so fun, and you've got such a big team you're working with, and all your neighbors are so nice to you. If we're running out of oil, then someone will help out. So we'll be able to get letters from someone else, and I just love that sense of community that a festival has.
Yeah, they're really special, and it's really interesting thinking about how when I first started doing festivals in 2006, the vegan, or I don't even know if it was vegan, but the vegetarian offers were very sort of 70s. It was very like veggie burgers, it was falafel, it was crepes with, mushrooms in, or cheesy chips or something, which obviously isn't vegan. But it's so exciting as a festival goer, which will happen again, just thinking of the choices that you have. It's just so, modern and, fresh, and then to see Chay, the brand on the horizon, and to kind of, for people that go there every year, to kind of see you each time, it's just it's wonderful, isn't it?
Yeah, it's really fun, and honestly, you do build like loyal customer relationships too, because we've had people who had food at like All Points East or BST, and then comes to like our other pop-ups, or go to our restaurant, or they order a kit from us. We moved into this apartment building recently, and some of our neighbors have had our food at festivals before, and it's it's a really nice point of connection, if that makes sense.
Yeah, food is your savior at festivals. Yeah. It's like everyone's just like, oh, thank God for that. Kind of, fantasize about it with whatever else that they've been doing, and then it's just like the nice anchor to their whole crazy week or weekend, however long it was going on for. Liz, shall we move on to the homework?
Yeah.
Okay, so everybody, we've been through all of the homework. Like I said, the purpose of doing that homework, which was to name your 5 favorite brands, or 5 brands that you really love, and what it is you like about them and how they make you feel, is just a really useful thing as you think about your own brands and how you want other people to feel about your brands. So we're just going to go through a few of them, just because it's fun. And some of you have really gone to town with how it feels. Like, I want to just draw our attention to Enrico Fabiano's answers. And I'm going to read all of them, just because you've just written, I just really love the way you have captured or been captured by these brands and then re-communicated it in your homework. So number 1, Adidas Originals, or Adidas, depending on where you're from. Very traditional style, retro image from 60s, 70s, 80s. It really, really makes me feel like a rocker. Whenever I put my trainers on or wear a tracksuit, I feel like a Britpop artist. Number 2, Ferrari. If you think in Ferrari, you think in red. Just by naming it, I have chicken pox all over my body. It's the sound of success. Listening to that motor is music to my ears. In my head, I'm driving by the seaside of the Mediterranean in slow motion while Pavarotti is singing Nessun Dorma. And then you've got 3, Fernet Branca, Italian brand with an over-index success in Argentina. Never knew that. It's the meaning of friendship, of having a casual talking with a friend, even if you're alone. Fernet Branca with Coca-Cola is your very best mate you can trust. He will never let you down. Interesting that it's a he as well. Like, it's really interesting thinking of brands in terms of whether they're male or female. Patagonia, it makes me feel that I'm a good person when I buy the brand. I'm wearing excellent quality clothes, but above all, I'm helping the planet. And number 5, Bialetti. It's my family, my morning's perfume. So this is coffee. It's my family, my morning's perfume. Since I was a child, it's my grandmother offering a coffee to a friend. It's the enabler of an honest conversation. What do you think about this, Liz?
Yeah, it's great. I mean, you should, Enrico, like, someone should hire you to be a brand like writer or something. I think it's so great that you have such strong emotional connections to all of these brands. And the important thing to note is that not everybody's going to feel like you do about these brands. And that's okay. When you're creating your own brand, not everybody's going to feel positively towards your brand or strongly towards your brand, and that's okay. But it's about creating kind of like a cult around your brand, and creating like the people who are so deeply in love with your brand, and that's success, because you're not going to make the whole world fall in love with you, but as long as you make some people fall in love with you, that's the start.
Yeah, and that begins with falling in love with yourself and your idea. Yeah. And it's like what we've been talking about all this time is just like being so obsessed with this idea that you have, and just like feel it burning up inside you, that you then can translate in all the different ways you translate it, but in this case via your brand. And you will attract those people that feel as strongly as you do if you're successful at communicating whatever that feeling is you have. I know you've got the lasagne truck, Enrico, that is very exciting. So thank you for that. I love the way you translated that and made me feel about those brands afresh. So hold on to that with your own brand. Debbie Siembri, you mentioned a couple that I'm going to pull out here. So one of them is Aesop. Everything about them makes me feel calm, like things are taken care of. How a font manages to achieve this is beyond me, but it does. Sheer simplicity, like I don't need to worry about a thing. Not that I would really be worrying about soaps. Maybe that's the key. Everything is so sleek, yet not in a very natural way, somehow commanding respect. There is so much print, making it feel like everything is explained, all difficulties worked out so that I don't have to. The sheer amount of text on a label is bizarrely calming. It's an interesting one, this with Aesop, isn't it? Because it's almost like medical, sort of apothecary kind of style. That's the vibe, isn't it? And by crowding the back of the label with all of that information, I get what you're saying. It's like you just feel like, okay, they're taking care of it. I'm just going to focus on the front and the simplicity of the smells and the uniformity of the bottles, the vessels that they put everything in. And it's also such a thing as, you go into an Aesop shop and it's just the touch points are everywhere. So it's not just the bottles, it's like you go in, and the one in Covent Garden, you go and you wash your hands. This is pre-COVID. They had a sink where you go and wash your hands so that you can really try everything on. And it's just got a whole kind of philosophy behind how you apply it and how you ready yourself to receive it. And just a wonderfully simple brand that what you're talking about is just the reassurance that you receive as a consumer of this.
This is such a big trend in the beauty industry, isn't it? Because Desenio, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, the abnormal beauty company, is doing the same thing. And I think there is a big like gap, a branding gap in the market, in the beauty market, where there's so much, so much celebrity advertising and so much like random like, so much colors and and customers often just be like, I just want to find a face wash that works for my skin. And I guess like what Aesop has done is to strip away all that crap and just like retain the information and how you should feel using like beauty products or skincare products. And I think they master in branding.
Yeah, there's a hell of a lot of noise as well. And I know you can get Aesop in department stores, RIP in a lot of cases, but no, like you can get Aesop in department stores like Liberty or whatever. But it's like the boutique effect, isn't it? You go into one of those shops and you're not overwhelmed. Like you go into TK Maxx and there's good stuff in there for you, but you've got to really like gird your loins to go in there and kind of like commit some time and some sweat to go and get your gear. But you go into a boutique, and in this case, it would be Aesop selling all their products, and you just feel like, oh, you don't have to get your head in a spin. And there's something really wonderful about that. And if you think about food and a food business, and let's say street food, it's not to try and, I don't think anyone's trying to create an Aesop type of vibe in street food, not that I've ever encountered anyway, because there's quite a lot of energy going on. But equally, going up to a store where the person who's running it has not had enough sleep, which is very common, by the way, or haven't brought in enough staff to help, or everything's just a bit all over the place. What we've talked about in the lesson of semiotics is like your receptors are going, hang on, this isn't in control here. And therefore, even if you're not consciously thinking this, subconsciously you're thinking, can I trust the food? Can I trust putting my money into this business? And I think it's just a really good one to think about in terms of Aesop is just the calm and the reassurance. And how might you be able to achieve that in each of your businesses, even though it's crazy, definitely on the streets and definitely in event catering, but just like, how can you create some level of consistency and we've got this all taken care of? So good things to think about. Debbie, you also mentioned Ben and Jerry's, which quite a few of you mentioned actually, and I think it's a really great example. So what you said was, they may not be my favorite ice cream, but I love that their small town story really transmits through all of their branding. They may be a huge ass company now, but at the heart of it all, when I pick up a tub, the colors, the graphics, the tone in their little stories on the back, the names of the flavors, it all makes me feel like it's being made old school. For lack of better words, it's cute, amusing, and feel good. What are your thoughts on Ben and Jerry's, Liz?
Yeah, I've heard a lot of people saying that Ben Jerry branding is really like on point, and I do agree with you with the way how it makes you feel. And I think a lot of times people forget that people like small personal story. People like to know that you started from somewhere, that you didn't just wake up one day and become a big corporate. And people like to be reminded of that, of the people behind the business. And a lot of times when you start small, you want to act big. You want to act as if like you're big and professional. And I think, yes, you should be professional, but at the same time, it's okay to show people that you are a one-woman team, or you are just like the team consists of 5 people, and celebrate that. And I think yeah, Ben and Jerry has really done a good job at doing that, at maintaining basically the roots of their business.
Yeah, and also not only that is Ben and Jerry. So Ben and Jerry's, this nice Vermont kind of country homespun, 2 hippies who don't really care about money; they just care about making nice ice cream vibe. But also, in recent years, this incredible, what seems radical for a lot of brands, like intention to bring down racism. And they're really doing a lot of serious work there, like not just kind of pussyfooting around, just like we want to dismantle racist structures in America, and really doing, I mean, I met a guy in the States who's on their board actually, and they really are just spending a lot of time on that. And even if some people don't know that, you can feel that there's something else going on beyond just, oh, let's just whack out a load of ice cream that was made 18 months ago and just give it a luxury veneer or whatever. And it makes you feel warm towards Ben and Jerry's, even though I'm not a massive fan. Particularly, I find them a bit sweet. I feel goodwill towards them. I actually did eat a tub of it the other day because it's lockdown. And then I'm just going to do one more, which is Book, who you said lots of great things, but I'm going to go to the final one you said, which is Crumbs and Doilies, Cupcake Gemma. Fun, colourful and candid. I like that Gemma Wilson has created a brand that is linked very much to her as well, because she shares a lot of information and recipes as well. I believe that she has created a huge amount of followers as well, which in return strengthen her brand. I like how natural she is, and it feels like I'm following a friend rather than a brand. And I think this is, a really great thing to note, is like you feel like you're following a friend. And obviously Gemma is a person, like great brands have somebody at their helm that you can kind of personalize the brand with, classic example, Richard Branson. But yeah, just the way that you feel like, and she is brilliant. I mean, yeah, she's brilliant at seeming very natural, and like it all comes not just easily, like, look at her, but she just doesn't try and dress it up. But she still dresses it up, and she it's really hard for me to talk about Gemma because she's a really good friend of mine, but like she's just brilliant at, it's been really interesting watching her just develop herself and put herself on the screen. Like that's all she's doing. She doesn't put on a performance particularly, although she obviously performs. She just is herself, and obviously people can tell that. And not only that, but the stuff she's making is just really high quality, and it always has been. Like they've never change that in their cakes, and it's been really incredible watching her success and their success from pretty much the same place you started, Liz, Brick Lane.
Yeah, I mean, Gemma is an incredible inspiration to a lot of people like us who have started the business out in recent years. And I remember like watching, she's got a video on YouTube of like touring her space, her kitchen space, her production kitchen space. And I must have watched that video like about 17 times, thinking, and just want to like manifest that and want to have that eventually. And we did eventually, but it was just so incredible to see like the insight of it. And I think Gemma is a great example of how to tie your personal identity with a business and how to untie it, I think, because now that Gemma's grown her brand so big, I think if you go on her YouTube channel now, which I still watch, you'll see different faces, her staff members, her team members who are just as much as well loved as Gemma is. And I think that's just incredible to be able to build that. She's built it beyond. Her brand isn't just, Crumbs and Doilies. It's no longer just the little bakery. It's not little at all. It's very big. It's a big operations, but it's an online brand now. And I'm sure if Gemma came out with like magazines and subscriptions and stuff like that, like I'd be on board. I'll sign up. And it's amazing to be able to take the brand to that height. And I used to share kitchens with people who traded with Gemma at markets, like on her very first few days, and they still there now. And there's nothing wrong with it, but I just want to stress how hard it is to start from there and to grow to that size, because a lot of times people think, oh, well, she started when like street food was just picking up, she didn't have a lot of competition. That is not the case at all. It is so hard at any point to grow any brand.
Yeah, and she's someone who, she's one of those people that she's barely taken a holiday.
Yeah,
like for years she just didn't really take a holiday. I'd be like off on another trip, and she was and she was just like working, just like perfecting and you know, doing her thing just uncomplainingly. And it's I think she's just come to a point where she's like, okay, cool, the brand is built now, how do we develop it? So like you said, remove me a bit more from it, and everybody can still enjoy the cakes. And it's also just in terms of, you know, COVID, it's interesting to look at Crumbs and Doilies and what they've done with their cookie and cupcake kits, because they have revolutionized their business and proven to them another business model which actually is potentially better than the one they had before. So they are a success story of the pandemic. They're a massive success story of the pandemic. So yeah, very interesting to talk about. Thank you everyone for sending in your homework. Like I said, we weren't going to spend ages talking about this, but I just wanted to use it as an opportunity to tap into the emotional connection with the brand, and for you all to think about the reasons that you chose the brands you chose and what it is that resonates with you about them. And how you can bring that into your own businesses, like focus on it or manifest it, like Liz said. So Liz, are we ready to hear about your brand journey?
Yeah, as ready as ever.
The story so far.
Yeah, so we're Chay. We do plant-based food inspired by Asian flavors, East Asian flavors to be exact. So yeah, we started in Brick Lane Market, and then we joined Cub, and then I think a year down the line, or was it a year and a half? About 2 years ago, we started at Box Park. We got a unit in Box Park, which is a great stepping stone from markets. But then at the same time, as we were starting Box Park, we also had a 9-month residency in Borough Market, which was great, but was really hard work. And at the same time, we ramped up our festival markets, our festivals operations. So in 2019, I believe that was our biggest year, and that was the year that our brand like grew a lot. At one point, we were in 6 different places doing, you know, private catering with Cub, or be at a festival or have a pop-up somewhere else while running Box Park. So yeah, that's our operations up until the pandemic. The pandemic hit and we had to close Box Park. Then we started in July when restaurants were reopening. We also started our DIY home kits. And so this lockdown, we have been focusing on those and have not really reopened any of our sites. We haven't done deliveries. We're just focusing on the home kits, which I feel like every restaurant is doing right now, and we're actually really enjoying it. Yeah. Next slide. Okay, this is like basically if you look at these 2 pictures that sort of give off what our brand is. We're very yellow, obviously, and I think we have a very simple kind of pop of color kind of branding. It's clearly not authentic at all. It's because our food isn't at all authentic. I think doing vegan Asian food, you're crossing that line. You know, you can't really call yourself authentic anymore because you're making like, you know, char siu and bulgogi beef from like wheat and corn and stuff like that. But yeah, we want to translate that into our brand, and we wanted to have fun with it instead of like trying to stay so serious about the traditions of the cuisines. But having said that, we try our best, and we research a lot into a dish before we come out with it. So for instance, our tonkatsu, which Joe and I are not from Japan at all, but we love ramen, and we really want to translate the richness of a tonkatsu broth to a vegan tonkatsu broth, and we did a lot of research on how to recreate that. And same with, for instance, kimchi. We get rid of the fish sauce in the kimchi, but we try to use a Korean recipe, and we try to stay as authentic to it as possible. And in our bulgogi sauce, for instance, we use fresh pears in it, etc., and try to stay as close to the original cuisines as possible. Next. So this is our first day at Brick Lane. And so on the left, I don't know on the left or the right, but the left is our store at Brick Lane, and on the right are our first ever posts on Instagram. You can see they're all videos. So obviously our branding was horrible. We thought we were very minimalistic and modern, but clearly we weren't. The black and white thing just does not work. And yeah, like and we, you know, it doesn't look like it, but we spent a lot of time planning for what to get and stuff like that. But you're still missing things when you're there, and until you're actually there setting up your site or your store, you wouldn't really know what you're missing or what you have that you wouldn't need. So on our Instagram, so how we originally grew our Instagram was we created a lot of vegan recipes. At the time, I think there weren't that many vegan content around. There are millions of like vegan bloggers now, but at the time, there weren't a lot of people doing. There was a lot of like Buddha bowls and acai bowls and stuff like that, but not so much like, you know, veganized recipe. So we did vegan pho, we did vegan burgers, we post that on YouTube and stuff, and we got to around 5,000 followers before we even started our first store. And the first customer actually waited for 2 hours there waiting for us to set up and say, we've been following you on Instagram for so long and we really wanted to try your food. And I'm pretty sure the first dish we ever served was not that great, but I think you, and I think back in the day, Instagram was already popular. So it is a lot more popular now, and your voice can definitely get a bit drowned from all the content on Instagram. But I think you can still grow a brand via social media very quickly. Now you can even look at TikTok to try to grow a brand, and I'm too old for that. But there's definitely room to grow, you know, to grow your brand on social media for sure. Next. So now this is what we look like. You can see we're a lot more colorful. There's a lot of yellow tones in our branding. It looks more like a fun, festive brand, if that makes sense. Yeah. And I think you wouldn't get, I mean, if you get there right away and you have like amazing branding right away, then that's great. But if you don't, and you don't really know what your brand looks like right away, that's completely fine, because it takes us a really long time to get here and we're still improving. I mean, I only just, the middle picture is like a screen capture of our website, and I literally just redid like our little front page of our website like 2 days ago. Before then it was the basic like Squarespace kind of setup. So yeah, you can adjust as you go. There's no shame in that at all. Next. Yeah, again, on the left, I think that was the first time we were at Curb. The plant is not ours, so it makes the brand looks a lot better with the plant there, but we're just like black and white. And then as we move, we created, you know, I think this is our setup at All Points East. But this is a 6 meter by 6 meter setup or something like that. You can see we've got a little poster in the corner there, on the right corner there, of like 3 bows, like a retro poster that we did for Star, like Bow Wars, basically. So every May the 4th, we post that out, and we get a lot of reshares from that too, because it's like a cool play on like a retro Star Wars poster. I think it says something, the war between vegan bows and meat bows or something like that. But yeah, next slide. So these were the the key questions that we asked ourselves when we started our brand. Who are your target customers? Who will be your early adopters and brand ambassadors? And what product values do you want to deliver? And what is your unique selling point? So our target customers from the get-go has not been vegans. We wanted to target people like us who weren't vegan but just needed that nudge, or just wanted to explore plant-based food without, having the moral side of veganism bombarded at them, which is fine, and we talk about that too, on our social media. But I think we do try to keep it just about food and about how amazing plant-based food could taste. And we knew that we wanted to target the meat eaters. We wanted people to come to us, have our food, not realizing that it's vegan. But to do that, we're not going to be able, when we first started, to tell a customer that your food is seitan, it just sounds like demonic. Like, it just, people are just so put off by it. So we know that we're not going to be able to sell seitan to meat eaters right away. So who are our early adopters? Who are our brand ambassadors? And I remember the first day, right before we started our street food market store, we had a little event. We used a space in our university. We asked if we could use like a room, and we just made food, and we invited in a bunch of influencers, and there were vegan influencers and non-vegan influencers, and we were being very honest about it. And we were like, we're not vegan, but we really are passionate about plant-based food, and we really want to invite you over to try out. And at the time, there weren't a lot of vegan bloggers. And the ones that we did have had like 1,000, 2,000 followers, 5,000 followers. So they weren't like huge in the influencer world, if that makes sense. But the connection that we built was really genuine, and we kept in touch. And now they've become, big influencers within the vegan world, and they've all grown to have like 50, 20,000 followers. And it was really good to have that connection already there, and to have an actual genuine connection. And I think to be able to do that, you really need to reach out to the people that have the same core values as you, or have the same interests as you. You can't, like, there are so many food bloggers out there, but who's going to be excited about your brand? Who's going to say, yeah, I'll try your products for free, I'll post about it for free? Not to say that you shouldn't pay bloggers, because you should, and you should see paying bloggers the same as spending ads on Instagram or spending ads on Google's and stuff like that. But as small business owners, when you just started out, you just do not have the budget to do that. And I think being honest about it too is very important. I think more than ever now, it's important to have an open and honest conversation with influencers, and with with PR, with connections that you have in the traditional press, and just say, we don't have the budget to, but when we do, we will. Or like, who are you talking to? Are you sending your products to a diverse group of influencers and bloggers and traditional media creators? That's really important. So what product values do you deliver? Like I said, for us, we wanted to patch a gap in the market. We saw that there was plant-based food, but nothing exciting in terms of like Asian food. We couldn't go out and have a decent vegan bowl of pho. That has definitely changed now. And every single restaurant now has really good, decent vegan menu. But back in the day, that wasn't the case. So yeah, that is basically our value and our unique selling point. Next slide. So we used Instagram mostly. You can definitely use a lot of different social media if you have the time to. Facebook is a really good place, especially now with Facebook Marketplace. It's really easy to sort of sell your products on there. But for us, I think we just focus on one. And I think if you don't have the time and you don't want to spread yourself thin, because you have to learn the algorithm of every single social media outlet, of every single channel, just focus on one first and build one first. And we chose Instagram. And if you channel all of your energy into one, you'll be able to build that one consistently, and you'll be able to engage with that one channel, instead of spreading yourself too thin and then ended up not having high engagement on any of the channels that you have. So we use a scheduling app. There are plenty of apps out there, but we mostly use Tailwind, which is one that you do have to pay. But on Instagram, you could also, create a draft and just set an alarm so that you can just send that draft off at the right time. But with a scheduling app, it means that I could literally sit down for an hour or so and plan out all of the social media content I'm sending out in a week, and then not have to worry about it for the next week. Because a lot of times you think that just posting a picture is really quick, but coming up with captions and doing all the hashtags and stuff takes a lot of time. So being able to just do it all at once really helps. And you'll find with your social media which time is best to post on. Post regularly. With Instagram, it'd be once a day. And you can post as many stories as you want. Keep the quality high. So if you look on our Instagram account, it's very organic. It's not set up. It's not every single photo most of them are taken on iPhones, to be fair. Not every single photo are like beautifully designed or anything like that, or with good lighting and a good camera or anything. We also reshare a lot of customers' photos too, but we're quite selective on what we put on our feed. Your feed is especially now in this day and age where you can't physically be at a store, your feed is basically your frontage, your store frontage. And you want to be able to give off a good impression, and it should represent you as a brand. Engage with your followers. I've talked about this before. Just reply to comments, reply to messages, reply to DMs, engage with other businesses. This is how you'd be surprised at how many people click through a comment, someone on a comment. Have you ever seen a funny post on 9gag and then you see a funny comment and then you click through to the person who made that comment? That happens a lot. So engaging with other businesses and other platforms is a really good thing to do, to be able to stay engaged within the industry and to gain more followers. But at the same time, obviously your engagement has to be quite genuine. You really do have to have an interest in the content that you're engaging with. You can't just be like, cool photo, mate. That's not going to get you much engagement. But if you're genuine, then yeah, be as personal as you're comfortable with. So now this is a topic that's been on my mind for a lot, because I think there is a fine line between protecting your privacy and growing a good personal brand, a good sort of a good real human brand, if that makes sense. And I think you just have to figure out where your line is. Where do you draw the line? Some people would pick up their Instagram account and would talk to their followers on stories, for instance. We don't do that. I have tried, but it's just not us. And like Gemma, for instance, she, you'll be able to recognize her and you'll be able to make the link. You probably don't even remember Crumbs and Doilies name. You probably be like Gemma's Bakery, and that's completely okay. And I think that is what people crave right now. People crave a sense of human behind brands. They want to connect with real people. They want to know that their money has been spent on small businesses. They want to know that their money has made a difference to a small business, and they want to buy into your story and they want to buy into your brand. We sell much online, and for people to want to wear our merch, for instance, they need to know who they are connecting to, who they are representing, and if they love us as a brand. And it'd be a lot easier for them to love us as a brand if they know who we are as people. And but at the same time, I think there is, when you start a business, I feel like it's your baby, and it's just so hard for you to disconnect your self-worth from your business. Maybe it's just me, but I feel like, it will ruin my day if I've had a bad day out of the market, or it will like make me feel like I wouldn't be able to sleep if I receive a negative comment, or someone said they didn't like my food, or someone just said something negative. Even if there are like hundreds and hundreds of positive like comments and hundreds of positive like feedback, that one negativity could really affect you. And I feel like having, drawing the line and being able to step back and being able to go out with being recognized is quite important. And to be able to have your own private account without people from the business follow you, I think you just have to figure that out. But I do want to stress that being personal with your brand, being personal on social media, really does hike up engagement. In the past year, we've talked a lot about our personal experiences, about racism and all of that. And we've really opened up about cultural appropriation. And we talked a lot about basically just very controversial topics, if that makes sense. And you know what? We have received some hate comments, I'm not going to lie, but I think that has if I look on my Instagram now, all of the posts that got the most engagement has been those posts, and those posts have had the most shares, and it really makes you feel vulnerable, but it does help with growing your brand. But it depends on where, what you're comfortable with and where you want to draw your line, I guess, and how important it is, and how much of a connection it is to, for what your personal hobbies and your personal beliefs and your personal your personal values, how important and how relatable it is to your brand and to the audience that are, watching your content, consuming your content. And I've spoken to a lot of business owners about this, and a lot of people have taken the more personal approach and then has withdrawn a little bit more, and they've withdrawn some information about themselves. For instance, running a vegan business and not being vegan is a very big controversial thing. Whether you share that or not, and how you share that is very important. Or, for instance, running a ramen joint without being Japanese. How do you communicate that? Do you show yourself as a white person? And if you do show yourself as a white person, how do you justify what you're doing? And how do you learn and take negative feedback and build your brand from that? That's really important. And shout about your values and unique selling points. I think we don't do this enough. We make a lot of our stuff from scratch. We make our sauces, our mayo from scratch. And it's not that we don't have to anymore, because you can buy like buckets of vegan mayo now. But back in the days, there wasn't any vegan mayo, so we had to make our own. We make our own vegan kimchi. We make our own seitan, which is vegan meat, and we still do. And I don't think we shout about it enough, but whenever we do, like post a picture of like all our kimchi, 100 kilograms of kimchi lined up, people love that. I remember posting a picture of like one bowl of rice and we had like 100 likes, and then next day we posted a picture of 9 tubs of kimchi and we had 1,000 likes from it. And it's, you can see it's not just the time that you post, it's also, what content you post, and really sharing your value and your unique selling point. That is really important to sort of stay relatable and personal. I think that's it. I don't know if there's any other slide. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Liz. And I think it's a really good one to bring up. This year, the last year, you guys have been a lot more vocal about what you care about and what you believe in. And you've talked about racism a lot more. And I think what all that does is strengthen, fortify the feeling that people have for you that really love what you're doing. And it's incredibly vulnerable thing to do. And I can completely understand how it must make people just kind of go, oh God, no. And the temptation, it's like to try and never offend anybody ever. But then what do you stand for as a brand? Nothing. Now, what are people going to hook onto? Nothing. There's nothing to hook onto. And we live in such a kind of like smooth-edged kind of world where everyone's just trying not to offend anybody else. And the main thing is, as I'm always saying, is just going back to what your vision is, what you stand for, what you care about, why you're doing what you're doing, and using your platform in ways that feel meaningful to you. And you can't go wrong. And all that you need to do at that stage is just grow a hard skin. And that's the difficult thing, isn't it? Because we're all sensitive about our shit. And it's difficult, but I really commend you guys this year for like not just kind of retreating, but just like going more like full force about what you care about. It makes you a much more interesting brand. It makes beyond the pop art and the the lovely looking bow. It's like, no, these guys have got something about them, and they're not afraid to talk about it. That's great.
Yeah.
Who do you think, and we're going to go on to questions in a sec, I just want to ask you a couple of quick questions. Who do you think is doing it really well? Who do you really admire on Instagram? Let's just keep it on Instagram.
Oh, there are so many companies, but off the top of my head, because I was literally talking to someone about this company, Dom Subs. I don't know if you've seen them around. Oh my God, they've blown up during the pandemic, isn't it? And this is a real great story about like how one door closes, the other door opens. They were running cafe shops, and obviously with the pandemic, it just did not work out. And so they started making their own subs. And I think you think, subs, what? Sandwiches? Who wants sandwiches in a pandemic? That's like office food. But they make their own bread, and everything just looks amazing. And they cater to a lot of they cater to vegetarians and vegans and clearly meat eaters. And they've done such an amazing job in such a small amount of time. Same with Willie's Pies. You probably have seen them around. Who else has done really well? Floor. They've created ASAP Pizza as a response to the pandemic. And oh my God, their pizza is the best pizza we've ever had. And like, it was so worth walking all the way down to Borough Market to line up and get it. Those are, I guess, like off the top of my head, the two brands that stand out right now.
Yeah, we mentioned Dom's Subs in the first week. If anyone wants a link, it's back there. But those sandwiches are epic. They're just like have a little think after you've had one. It's just such an experience. And just quickly on press and influencers and stuff. Influencers have kind of come along and almost like eaten themselves. There's just so many. And like you were saying, it's important to find someone who actually cares about what you're doing. They're not just jaded trying to do the same that, just another day at the office kind of thing. Where do you see that now? Like to a business starting out now going, oh, I want to connect to influencers. How do you see the tide turning, or how do you think the approach might need to be different, if at all?
I think influencers, what's amazing about influencer marketing, they get a lot of a bad rep, I guess, for being influencers, but I think they really help brands out in a sense. Like, we're getting much more exposure than we would have otherwise with no budget. We would never be able to afford, an actual PR company. I think only right before the pandemic, when we were opening our actual restaurant, which we canceled the plans because of the pandemic, we were going to see actual PR companies, but that was like 3.5 years down the line, 3 years down the line. I don't think we would have been able to do that at the start. I don't think you need to either. I don't think I think, being featured on Time Out, um, maybe it's just as equivalent as being featured on someone's feed with 200,000 followers and really good engagement. Um, and another thing is with press, you never know what's paid press and what's not paid. With influencers, I think it is quite refreshing to be able to know like what content is real and what content is paid. And even if it's paid, because it is their personal brand at risk, they do take it, they do take it very seriously, whether they put their face and their brand, to vouch for another brand. For us personally, we've never paid for influencers, but I do want to note that whenever somebody approach us and ask about budget, or whenever we approach someone, we always say that we currently don't have a marketing budget, and that is because we have never spent on marketing before, except for, I don't know if you count like building a frontage as marketing, or like printing out like leaflets as marketing. But other than that, we've never paid for an ad on Google. We've never paid for an ad on Instagram at all. And if we ever had the budget to do that, we will start paying bloggers. And I do want to stress that their labor is not free. There's so much work. Once you start your business, you know how much work it is in creating content, and just taking nice pictures and coming up with captions and all of that. And it's work. But at the same time, it doesn't mean that you can't get free content. I think if you build a genuine enough relationship with a person, I think that makes, I think you could still get really good content. For instance, we've got bloggers who are Asian and vegan, for instance, or Asian who are vegan, who are interested in vegan food, for instance. Those people will want to try our food. Well, mostly I assume that they would, and I would reach out to them, or they would reach out to us. And you can have a really genuine relationship there. But I think also know because when we first started, we learned all of this along the way, but now there are certain do's and don'ts when it comes to influencer marketing that you do need to know if you're going to engage in that. And one is, the talk about budget and pricing. And two is, if you're going to gift someone, whenever we ask someone if they'd want to try our product, we always say, so for instance, we recently sent out like a lot of kits to influencers, our home kits. And we always say, this is a gift. And we do not expect you to post about it. We just want your feedback. And some people have not posted, and that's completely fine. You have to be okay with it. You can't rush them, because you spent like 20 quid sending them a home kit that they didn't post. Well, you didn't pay them. So you can't like expect them to post about it. And if they did post about it and it's not as positive as you'd like it to be, then you don't have the right to question that either. But you can start a conversation. I think that's the most important thing about social media, is that it's an open two-way conversation. You can talk to someone and explain yourself, or to just admit that, oh yeah, we've not done that very well, we'll improve on that later. But yeah, that's what I'd say with influencers marketing. In terms of press, we've gotten some press quite organically. I think we were listed in Top Street Food in London. That's quite organic. We didn't know that the person was coming to have our food. They had the noodle salad, which if we knew they were coming, we would tell them to have something else, because the noodle salad is there just to like. It's not that we don't want the noodle salad, but yeah, it's just there to like fill up the menu, if that makes sense. It's not our key thing. It's not what we're known for. So yeah, like we've gotten press quite organically. I think collaborations always help. So I know that Honest Burger, for instance, they do this really cool thing where they work with small producers to come up with a special burger. So I think at the moment, or was it last month, they worked with Dee's Table, which is a vegan business, and she did sauces for them, or like they have a shop in what is it called? The market. Anyways, they source like, yeah, Brixton, that's it. And they source their sauces and their pickles from like the local producers there. And I think working cross collab with other brands is always a cool thing to get attention, either from press or influencers, and you'll have much of a bigger power yourself to be able to gather, interest and gather engagement. And it doesn't mean that you have to start with, you don't have to collab with like a big brand like Honest Burger. You can collab with brands that are your size and kind of like team up to be able to drum up the engagement and drum up the excitement. And we've worked with our landlords before, for instance. So if we're at Curb, then we'll get press from, that cover like Curb's events. When we were at Box Park, our first day we gave out 200 Vietnamese coffee donuts. And that got a lot of press. That was actually on timeout. We had like lines of people outside our store, but actually that was not a good thing because they thought that they were just there for free donuts. Nobody like bought food, which then later on like the customers came, but then you learn from that, I guess. So free press doesn't always mean a good thing. It's free good press, like to like free exposure, like exposure to an audience that is more likely to engage with you would be a lot more important. So, before you think about reaching out to an influencer who only posts about fitness and only posts selfies, think about whether that would be a good audience for you.
There's a world of things to learn about influencers and everything. I think the bottom line is making friends with people, whether that is an influencer, whether it's an influencer in the making, whether it's a journalist. The whole game of press has completely changed, and people don't even want to see a press release anymore. They just want to get a media alert on their WhatsApp. So it's all about, and I think it's quite tempting to kind of think, oh God, I've got to like get a PR company or whatever. I mean, you're probably, lots of you aren't thinking this. I mean, not many people do when they're first starting out. But anyway, if you are, just the power of that personal connection, being like getting in touch with someone, writing them a personal email, very brief one, and just being like, hey, I've just started this company. I'd love you to come and try it, whatever that might mean for you. But it's going to be so much more appreciated than some kind of banal press release from someone that just sounds like every other press release. So just cut out all the crap and just try and get straight to the person that you want to get to. I'm conscious of time, so let's go on to some questions. So we've got a question from Cheyenne Amin. Hi Liz, really enjoying hearing about your journey. Is the customer always right? In particular, how do you deal with ridicule online, if there ever has been any? You've touched on this, but what do you feel about the customer always being right?
Yeah, I think the second question is the same about negative feedback and reviews, and I'm going to answer those two together. I think we actually just got something really negative today. And I think it's just how you carry yourself with feedback, for instance, with negative reviews, for instance, Google reviews. We do get some negative reviews on Google. Not a lot, but there are some. I think to be like technical about it, read the review, and if they are accusing you of something that they wouldn't have like real evidence to, unless they say your food is not up to their standard, and that's fine. But if they're accusing you of like, I don't know, like not washing your vegetable properly or like buying cheap rice or whatever, you could actually report that and that could be removed. But a lot of times we don't do that. We just reply to a bad review and explain ourselves. If somebody's like, oh, your seitan is dry, then I'll be like, well, there are a lot of other protein options you could try from us. If that's not up to your standard, like just let us know, email us. Oftentimes they won't email you, but I think a reply is always good. And if there's another person who comes on your Google reviews and see that comment, they'll also see your comment, and it will be up to them to decide who to believe. And most often they'll give you the benefit of the doubt, hopefully. In terms of like negative stuff online, I think, so for today, what happens was someone, I think, saw Curb reshared a Hong Kong bound pancake kit, and they were really angry that we call it Hong Kong bao because
Oh,
it's a kwa bao. It's a kwa bao from Taiwan, and it's not like a Chinese bun. It's not like a char siu bun, which would often be a bun. And we replied and we said that, well, we are from Hong Kong, but this is just like our take. Well, not me, but Joe is from Hong Kong, and this is just our take on it. And they question that we're from Hong Kong. They're like, if you're from Hong Kong, you wouldn't like pay such disrespect to this. And it really hurts personally, I think, because it's the thing that we don't want to be thought of as. And I think you just have to communicate. Social media isn't a one way, and if somebody says something, you can say back, and you just have to. But I think it's hard not to be defensive, and it's hard not to take it personally, but you just have to balance between being personal and being professional, I think. Not saying that being personal doesn't mean being professional. When you're angry, a lot of things can come out, and I think we just explained that we are from Asia. We're not white people trying to make bows and stuff like that. And we've always paid really like a lot of respect to every single ingredient that we use and we do. And sometimes it's not up to, I mean, I feel the same when I go to a Vietnamese like fusion place. I'm like, no, I want to eat my mother's food. I don't want to eat some weird banh mi burger. And I get it, and not your food isn't going to tailor to everyone, and that's okay. And I think you're allowed to defend yourself. And so we defended ourselves, but at the same time, we messaged the person, and I realized that person is from Taiwan. So I completely get it why they're offended, because if I saw someone use the round rice noodles for pho, which is a flat rice noodles, I am so like, I get outraged. I'm outraged, but I'm outraged like at home. I'm not like going on social media and attacking people. It and I think I just messaged them and I apologized, and they explained that like the reason why they're upset is because we've called it Hong Kong bao without the mentioning of the origin of the Taiwanese bao. And I apologized for that, and we said that we'll include that into our branding. And I realized that we've never really actually paid tribute. The whole bao thing is quite complicated, because we originally didn't want to do bao. It's just a pop-up thing, and then it was so popular that everybody asked us to do it. And at the pop-up, we actually did Taiwanese bao. We did the vegan version of the bao Taiwanese bao with like the sugary peanuts and the braised pork with using jackfruit, and we did all that. But obviously, as time evolves, we have put our own twist in it, and we have put Vietnamese flavor and Korean flavors, and obviously it has morphed it. But and there's a fine line between like cultural appropriation and really paying tribute to a culture. And you just have to. A lot of times with social media, there's so much like calling out people, and there's so much like hate throwing at people instead of like a two-way conversation. I think if that person had actually looked at our brand and saw how much we care about this topic, they wouldn't have. I don't think they would. Maybe they would, but I wouldn't personally. But if you look at our brand, it looks quite whitewashed, I guess. And just because it's modern looking and it's one color tone instead of like and it's multiple cuisines instead of just one traditional cuisine, and we never show our face, you wouldn't know that we're actually Asians behind this brand. So yeah, and we just talked to this person, and we also pointed out why we're a bit upset for being called out without them really knowing who we are. But then we also acknowledge our mistake, and I think you do have to kind of keep an open mind and stand your ground and know your value and your worth, basically.
Know who you are, know what you're about, know that you're doing what's right for you, but also, and it's not appropriate, it's not always possible like to get back to every single person that might have an issue, other than you might form an opinion based on many people's feedback to kind of do something a bit different, like you've just said you would. But all anyone really wants is to be heard. And it's really important to remember that, even if it's someone who's had a shitty time at your place, your restaurant, or your stall or whatever, the number of times, if you just kind of go back to that person and make them feel $1 million,
yeah, exactly,
seen and heard, you can turn that critic into your biggest fan. It's about feeling heard and feeling part of the conversation. For most people, a lot of people don't feel heard, and a lot of that noise is that happening, right?
Yeah, and definitely do not be scared of like the negative feedback, because there will be so many positive ones that will really, it should outweigh the negative ones, although you might pay a lot of attention to the negative ones, but there are so much like positivity out there.
Yeah, and it's so difficult because in the beginning, most of you will be a sole trader. We spoke about it in Business Week, what kind of business organization you're going to be, but like you are your brand. Your brand is you, so you feel personally responsible, attacked, whatever. So it's a tricky one to learn, but just keep on connecting to what you're doing, why you're doing it, and surround yourself with other people that endorse you. Okay, so that was also Will Wyatt's question, which you've answered in the same breath, so thank you. So a couple more questions. So Kira from Sugar Rush. Hi, Kira. Hi, Liz. I have a question regarding festivals. How did you go about getting into festivals, and what sort of costs were involved? Oh God, this is quite a long question. And how did you estimate how much stock you'd need? As simply as possible, please, Liz.
I don't think this is a branding question. I think we just sent a lot of applications, and then we got on the good books of one. Most of the time, the festival organizers are the same people, so you get on the good books of one. They'll hook you up with other festivals. That's how we got both All Points East, BSD, and we were meant to have stand calling last year, because we were on really good terms with Nigel, and so yeah. Or you could ask your fellow traders for contacts in terms of what sort of costs were involved. A lot of costs are involved. There's a lot of planning involved. The cost that the festivals will lay out to you, and then the cost of getting a fridge trailer, because you're doing about 10,000 portions of food per day, if not 20, and staff costs and all of that, planning for staff, estimate how much stock you need. I think you'll probably talk about that in some other week, but Excel is my best friend. Google Spreadsheet is my best friend, and I have this very complicated spreadsheet, but it simplifies my life, where I could put in 100 bibimbap and like 300 baos, and it will tell me exactly how much sauce I need to produce and all of that, to reduce costs, to reduce like excess stock. Once you've traded at several markets, you'll realize which product sells the best and what menu works best. So then you'll be able to sort of divide the ratio accordingly to know how many burgers you're going to sell versus how many loaded fries you're going to sell. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And final question from Thais Giral. Hi, Liz. How do you go about finding companies that manufacture these amazing signage for stalls? Do you have any recommendations of company you have worked with?
I think most traders like build their own frontage. We do anyways. I don't think we paid for anyone. I'm looking at Charles, I'm like, I don't deal with that. I don't think we've ever paid for anyone to build our signage. I'm sure there are people that build signage. I think if you join the Curb chat, you can ask and people would be able to give you an answer, but I don't personally know anyone. Yeah, sorry about that. That's not a good answer at all.
No, it's it's fine. At the end of this course, everyone on this course is going to be invited to join the Curb Slack group, where there is a mine of information of all kinds.
Literally ask any question about anything and there will be an answer, I promise.
So you can get on that once you finish the course. That's not a problem. But there are some. I will post. I don't know where you are, Theus. I can't remember if you're in London or not, but there is a really great guy, Charlie, who used to be a street food trader. He had a
yeah, from Fundy Pizza.
Fundy
Isn't
Pizza.
Yeah.
And I can't remember what the name of the business is, but he then went into signage. And he is doing that. I don't know if he's doing like frontage, but he's definitely doing signage. So I will post the link to that in this chat. And you can all get in touch with Charlie and he'd be delighted to help you. But yeah, I mean, it's just, there's a sort of whole hodgepodge of stuff going on there. So definitely get on the Curb Slack channel once, in a few weeks, once we've released you onto that. So listen, we're going to have to wrap it up now, Liz. This has been so wonderful. Thank you for all of your
thank you for having me.
Information that you've shared. And I think it's just a really great reminder of the need for being human in all of this. And it's very easy to look at a brand and be like, oh wow, they've got it all figured out, or they don't do anything wrong. It's a hard slog running your own business and being out there and putting yourself out there. And I think it's all the more wonderful a company for your willingness to share stuff and to be a human being and to respond to people and just keep on pushing ahead in what has been a remarkably difficult year. So you look from the outside like it's going great guns, and you're doing a brilliant job at just kind of maintaining that consistency. So well done to you.
Thanks.
So thank you everybody for tuning in. We will see you next week for Operations Week, which is going to hit your inboxes.
Ooh.
It's not going to hit your inbox, but it's going to hit your Thinkific box, 12:01 a.m. as usual. Hope you enjoy that. It's quite a meaty one, so good luck with it. And then we'll be back next Monday with Ollie Hunter and Nick Friedman from Hamon, who is the godfather of street food, and there's nothing he doesn't know about operations. So get your questions ready. Thank you, everybody. Have a good week. Enjoy the snow if you can, and see you in a week.